Hey everyone, Josh here, back with another WarGamingNewb Builds an Army. This time around we are going Hail Caesar, and we are going with Greek Hoplite, or Hoplites. So as you all know, we are wanting to start playing Hail Caesar on the channel, but we only have one army built, and that's the early Imperial Romans. And we had a bunch of stuff just lying around. You may have seen the unboxings for this, the Athenian Armored Hoplites, that I did last year, as well as the Macedonian Hypaspists, which I did also, I think earlier in the year, maybe a couple months ago. In any case, I had these figures lying around and felt that I needed to do something about it, and this gave the opportunity to create a Greek Hoplite army. Since James and I are new to Hail Caesar, this particular army build video will be dedicated or more closely aligned to new players who don't have any experience with army building in Hail Caesar. So, in any case, let's get started. The thing that folks need to know about Hail Caesar is that at its most basic core, it is a divisional game. So the armies that you have are going to be built up from divisions. That actually makes it easier for a new player who's just getting into Hail Caesar to start building their army. The stars that they have for different nations for the game are actually a perfect way of just jumping straight in and playing Hail Caesar, because each of those starters are basically a division that you can have in the game. And if you're trying to build a more massive army, the easiest way to do that is to buy a couple starters of the nation that you want to play. Each of those starters are built to create one division in Hail Caesar. So again, because this is a mass battle army, I think the intention is to go from that starter and then building out to an entire full-fledged army for your nation. So if you're like me and you want to splash into different nations, getting a starter like that would be the easiest way to start building your first division and then building up your army from there. However, because we have limited table space, I don't think James and I will be creating huge armies of ancients in order to duke it out between the two of us. I think at most we'll go from 1 to 3 divisions, but most likely 1 or 2 divisions, and then going from there. Eventually, when we get to the point where we're more experienced with Hail Caesar and maybe get a little bit more table space, we'll start having huge armies. But until then, we're going to stick to 1 or 2 divisions, and then at the most 3 divisions on the table, because that's already going to be a lot of figures. Mass battle games are just huge. So with that being said, I will be using the Hail Caesar Army Lists Biblical and Classical book. This has a number of armies, and then specifically the Greek Hoplite and late Greek Hoplite armies. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the first list. All right, so here is the Hoplite Greek list. This is for 6th to early 5th centuries BC, and it really covers the Ionian Revolt, the Battle of Marathon, the Battle of Thermopylae, the Battle of Plataea. So basically the Greek-Persian War period of Greek history. In fact, before I go further, let me explain what a division is in Hail Caesar. So a division in Hail Caesar consists of 4 units. That could be a mixture of infantry, cavalry, skirmishers, and all that stuff. And with each division, you're going to have an overall commander or general. The first division that you build in Hail Caesar will be the overall general for the entire army, and then every subsequent division after that will have a general that's specific to that particular division. So, all right, moving on. Hoplite Greek, basically Greek-Persian War period. Here are the rules. Your initial division needs to have 75% infantry. Hoplites need to be 75% of that 75%, if that makes any sense. So the infantry needs to make up 75% of your first division, with 75% of infantry being Hoplite. If you are doing Spartans in this, then they have to be 50% of the Hoplite. So as you can see, it kind of goes down in terms of like your more general infantry down to Hoplite, down to Spartans. Then you can have up to 10% of your division be cavalry, because in this period they didn't use cavalry as much as later periods, like during Alexander the Great's time. So, and again, here you have the divisions are 4+. So you can have at bare minimum 4 units and then build up from there. So more specifically, divisions must contain at least 4 units unless they comprise cavalry only. So you can do a cavalry only division, but for this particular army list, you still have to follow these rules where 75% of that division, so 3 units in at bare minimum 4, will need to be infantry, and so on and so forth. At that point, you basically can see the price point per unit, and then each unit actually might have something underneath that either raises the price of that unit or the cost of that unit, or lowers it, and really there you have it. So in the most basic sense, your general, like in Black Powder, will have a skill rating, and they suggest that your commander have a leadership of 8, which is kind of like the nice middle ground in terms of skill level. Exceptional commanders are few and far between, so they could be rated 9 or 10. I think 10 is the highest rating for commanders or generals, and then the lowest would be 4 or something like that. But there are no general. At that point, that general is incompetent, so you would never field a general that's 4. Usually 8 is where you want to be. So, Another thing about Greek phalanxes, which are very important on how many actual miniatures you're going to field in each unit. Greek phalanxes, or phalanx in general, and that covers Macedonian phalanxes, have to at least be 4 ranks deep. So, I'm going to bring up the minimum units that are needed for a particular size, and then that's how we're going to kind of figure out how I'm going to build my Hoplite units within that. But to just recap, you need a division of at least 4 units, and basically 75% of that first division will need to be infantry, 50% of that can be Spartans, and then 10% cavalry. So, alright, so if you have the Hail Caesar core rulebook, it's going to be page 20. We're specifically looking at pike phalanx. So, pike phalanx requires you to be 4 models deep. So, that means you have 4 ranks of troops, and then based on the minimum amount of units that you need for a standard unit size, large, tiny, and all that stuff, you have to have them in 4 ranks. So we'll take a closer look at the size of the units. Alright, so page 16 of the core rulebook has the standard sizes for your units. Okay, so for pike phalanx, you need to be 4 deep infantry, so 4 ranks. And a standard size 4 rank or 4 deep infantry will require you to have at least 32 to 40 models. So if you want something a little bit larger, you want to go 60 to 80, or if you want a smaller unit, 20 to 24. But I think at that point you won't be able to do that because you need 4 ranks, and you're just not going to have enough models to do that. So we're going to target the 32 to 40 models for this particular division. Alright, so going back to the first box that I have, or bag, because this came in a bag, I have the Athenian Armoured Hoplites 5th to 3rd century BCE. This kit came with 48 miniatures. So at most, I can create a standard 40 Hoplite unit for the division. So that'll be my first unit. However, because I'm trying to get as many units out of this box set, I'm going to go 32 to create my first division, which will leave me with 16 left over. Not quite enough to create a second unit in my first division. However, I do have the Victrix Macedonian Hypaspists that I unboxed earlier in the year. This does come with 24 miniatures, and I know what you're saying, these are Macedonians. However, if you watch that unboxing, I discovered that there are options to make these Greek hoplites. So rather than using this for Macedonians, I will be using them to create the second unit of my first division of Greek hoplites. So 16, I would just need to get another 16 from this set here, which brings me to the bare minimum 32 for that second unit, and then this leaves me with 8 more hoplite that I will need to expand into another full-size unit of Hoplites. So that's what I have in terms of building my first division. I have 2 units made out of the 2 sets that I already have. I will now need to get another Macedonian Hypaspists set from Victrix, or maybe I can get the Hoplite Ancient or Classical box from Warlord, which actually has 40 or 42 Hoplite, and that might even give me enough to create a 4th unit in the division. However, if that's not enough, and if my math is incorrect, I can also add Greek light cavalry, and that'll get me to my 4 units in the division. That's just something that I'll need to explore at this point. If I were to just build 4 units of Hoplite, that would at least give me a simple option to play Hail Caesar with the Greeks. However, that doesn't give me a lot of different options in terms of combating enemy cavalry or enemy skirmishers, so I'll really need to play around with it. Again, this is just the first part of my Hoplite build. I'll be following this up with a second Hoplite build, which will cover the later Greek Hoplites, as well as what I'm going to add in order to counter cavalry, skirmishers, and ranged attack like slingers or archers. But what I want to do now is kind of show you what I have completed, and it'll probably just be a review also of what we just talked about in terms of building the division. So like we discussed, I am building up my first division of Greek Hoplites, and I'm going to kind of go over everything that I have and then what I'll need to buy to get to that 4-unit division. So this is what I have done so far. I have a general on a 50mm base. He is a fighting hedgehog figure. I don't have the shield mounted on him yet because I'm not done painting him, but let me see if I can get closer here and we'll zoom in. I'm working on getting that done. He's actually almost finished. Just got to do some shading and all that fun stuff. So, all right. Next up, we have part of a Greek phalanx. So the important part about a Greek phalanx is that you need 4 ranks of troops or hoplite on the line. So each 40mm base actually has 4 hoplite on there, which makes up 2 ranks, and then I will have another line of 40mm bases that'll make up the 3rd and 4th rank for this phalanx right here. The challenge, and as you can see, is getting the spears lined up so that the rear 2 ranks won't be or will fit properly once I put that in. So in any case, let's bring one of these guys up. This is my first stand of hoplite or hoplites, depends on how you want to pronounce it. I just used some contrast and some standard painting. I don't know yet if I'm going to put decals on these shields because obviously getting the last 2 in the back rank or the 2nd rank will be difficult. And I do like the look of the burnished gold on their shields. So that's the first stand done. I just got to do the basing on there. Do have the command stand in process. So we do have a horn blower. This one's pretty much done. Just got to do a few washes here, and obviously the base, and then add the other 2 hoplite in the back, and it'll be these guys here. I have to put the hoplon on them after painting, because I did prime all the hoplon, which are the shields, in gold. Retributor gold from Games Workshop. So I wanted the command stand to look a little bit different because I don't have a standard bearer, and I'm not even sure if they had standard bearers in Greek phalanxes. Although I do believe that some sets may have a standard bearer, I'm not quite sure. So I decided to go with these 2 guys with Copus in formation. So these 2 stands are almost done. I've started prep work on the next 2 stands, and once this is complete, I will have the first 2 ranks of my medium-sized Greek phalanx complete, and then I'll have to do the last 2 ranks, and then that will be 1 unit done, and the general. So in the Hail Caesar rules, you need 4 units minimum. So it's 4 units plus to create a division, and obviously I'm going to be working on getting that done. In fact, a breakdown of what I have will be next. All right, so the core of this first division is actually being formed out of the Armoured Athenian Victrix set. I've gone through a couple of sprues, and like 2 sprues, and I have 4 sprues left. That brings a total of 48 Hoplite that I can build, which will, based on the 4-rank phalanx composition, will give me a unit of 32 Hoplite, which will be 1 unit, and then that leaves me with 18 Hoplite left, which I will build and put on stands. But in order for me to create a second division, I really need to get to that 32 for the medium-sized phalanx. And for that, I will show you what I'm going to use next. So I have this Macedonian Hypaspists set from Victrix laying around, and when I unboxed it, I determined that based on the build instructions on the back, you can actually build Greek Hoplite out of this rather than the Hypaspists that would be used with the Macedonian army. Hoplite were actually used up until the Macedonian conquest as part of Alexander's army. And so, based on what I have, which was this Athenian Armoured Victrix set, as well as this set, I have enough to make 2 full units. I will be using 16 of the remaining Athenian Armoured Hoplite, and then combining from the Hypaspist set another 16 Hoplite built out of this set here, which will bring me to 2 units of Hoplite, and then I'll have 8 Hoplite left over. At which point I'll need to make a decision on what I'm going to do, whether I'm going to buy another Victrix set, whether it's the Athenians or this set here, or if I'm going to get a Warlord Hoplite set, which will have 40 or 42 depending on which box set. You have 2 Hoplite sets. I don't know what the difference is, except that there's 2 more in one of them than the other one. But I believe that they are the same models. You just get 2 extra in one of them. So at that point, if I were to buy a Warlord set, regardless of which Hoplite set I get, they'll get me to at least another unit of Hoplite with a bunch left over. But ideally, what I want to do is to bring in either archers or slingers or even light cavalry to kind of complete the division, and then be able to field that as a start to my Greek Hoplite army that I can use as either a standard classical Hoplite army or a late Hoplite army. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'm going to build 3 phalanxes of Hoplite and then support it with either light cavalry, archers, or slingers, whatever I can find. I would prefer to get Victrix and keep them all lined up, because obviously the only thing that's different in this set, or in this division, is that my general, who is slightly smaller than the Victrix guys, that's a fighting hedgehog figure. So anyway, that is my plan for building up my division. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this and have a better understanding of how to army build in Hail Caesar. To recap, Hail Caesar is built off of divisions with an overall general, each division having its own commander. But obviously, just starting out, getting yourself to complete your first division will go a long way in, 1, teaching you how to build your other divisions, either identically or in support of your first division, and then going from there and actually having a good Hail Caesar game against your opponent. So again, this video is kind of aimed towards people who are new to Hail Caesar, for the new guys that are getting in and see that this is kind of like an easy way to understand how to army build in Hail Caesar. So if you like this video, go ahead and click like. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I appreciate it if you would. click the bell notification icon to get notified of all new army builds coming out of the channel, and then click the link in the description below to join our Discord. That is the best way I can personally interact with you and chit-chat you about Hail Caesar and any other game that we cover on the channel. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more Wargaming Noob builds an army from Wargaming Noob Historical.